This episode is brought to you by the Financial Technology Report, a leading information source on financial technology companies and solutions. In this episode, we speak with Konstantin Kavvadias, Interim CFO and Chief Investment Officer at Solaris, Europe's leading embedded finance platform. Solaris enables partners ranging from SMEs to multinationals to embed banking services through its modular B2B tech stack. Konstantin brings more than 16 years of experience in investment banking, including senior leadership positions at HSBC as Managing Director and Head of Banks Germany and Austria. At Solaris, he is focused on building the company's equity story and long-term growth strategy. Backed by over 530 million euros in funding, Solaris continues to pioneer banking as a service across Europe, supporting hundreds of partners with compliance, security, and customer-centric financial solutions. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow. Konstantin, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Thank you, RJ. It's great to be here.
As I was refreshing myself on Solaris and prepping for this interview, a part of me really got excited because I used to be, way back in the day, a FIG banker, financial institutions banker. And as part of that, really always paid a lot of attention to what was happening on the tech side. And as we all know, fintech has been on a run for the last 40 years. For the benefit of our audience, tell us what Solaris does, because I think it's super interesting and probably something that many people are not familiar with.
Sure. Thank you. Obviously, very happy to give you a short overview of what we do. So Solaris is the leading embedded finance platform in Europe, which means at the end that we enable any corporation to provide financial services based on our regulatory banking license and our tech platform, which is API driven, a very tailored financial service or product through their overall product offering.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that it is relatively easy and quick for them to launch a financial product with us rather than going and, spending all the CapEx, developing their infrastructure, and also gaining, obviously, the required banking license, which is a tedious regulatory process that takes, many months to complete, and in some instances, almost years.
Mm-hmm. And what would make a corporation, business in general, want to consider setting up a digital banking service?
Well, the clients or the customer of today, prefers to transact seamless. Whether it's a standard product or a service, it is easier for the client, obviously, to interact with a platform that provides the whole product suite. So instead of, for instance, going and buying a software that focuses on accounting, you can already embed also a business account. Now you have a one-stop solution where you start your company, you buy the software solution, whether it's accounting or payroll services and whatnot, and you can always choose to go with the business account, a card, or even beyond that, also directly engage in lending. So I think that's then the beauty of offering, because the partner or the corporation that deals with us knows the client best. So they tailor the product to the needs of the end user, end customer, and they can benefit from our scale because we have plenty of them on our platform. So we can operate at a different scale compared to each and everybody trying to develop something on their own.
Mm-hmm. And so are these companies ones that are already thinking we want to provide digital banking services as our core function, and so they have Solaris being the engine in the background? Or is it the case where there's a corporation already in their main line of business? It could be consumer products, and they say, we want to add in this functionality of digital banking to enhance loyalty with our customer base. Maybe if you could explain a little bit more about the offering.
So the offering is modular, which means that the client can choose exactly how much of the products that we offer he wants to embed. So for instance, they can only go with the KYC. If they have a running business, that requires just KYC and he or she thinks it's best, to go with that part of the solution, he can embed only KYC services to onboard new clients seamlessly and then use that service. And then obviously, as the journey starts and the firm thinks about further engaging with the client, it's the question of the touch points, right? So if you're a big, let's say OEM, and let's take a big car producer in Germany, you have touch points with the client like once, maybe every 3 years, 5 years, depending on how often they switch the cars. Now, if you have, let's say, a payment solution embedded within the car, in the card, and that the client also uses the card daily, you get more data. You understand your client better. And then obviously you can further tailor the actual offering that goes then beyond the car, becomes a mobility offering, because you know exactly how the client uses the car or whether or not the car is just part of the whole, let's say, mobility solution that the client seeks to use. And that's how you then not only profit from selling more product to your client, but you increase the engagement, you obviously also increase the loyalty, and then ultimately you probably also optimize your marketing spend.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at your client base, are there certain sectors that I guess you're most focused on that tend to use your solutions more than others?
Yeah, so I think the strategy developed over the years because Solaris at the start tailored mostly to fintechs. Then the OEMs, the corporates, the different players got on board. Some of the ideas did work, some others didn't. And I think what we can say now is one big vertical is ERP, right? The software providers that provide a very specific solution, especially to SMEs and small businesses, they're really interested to embed more and more financing options, but also payment options. So you have big players in the market who are trying to bring this together, and obviously you cannot do everything. So those guys who have the best possible software solution would like to tack on financial services. And then obviously they don't want to be regulated as a bank because the regulatory burden is relatively high. So this is a very natural sector for us because also the players know how to use and how to embed the product via API, right? So that makes it the most natural product segment for these products. And then afterwards, if you look where people use their card and they want to have different payment solution, obviously e-commerce, that's where we are starting to play in. And then the last of the biggest sectors would be mobility and then I would say travel. Mm-hmm. Where you can embed the payment solution, you have the loyalty angle, and then you try to tack on maybe the credit card and other services like insurance and so forth and so on.
Now, how do you work in various jurisdictions? Like, there's different regulations in the US versus Europe. Can you service, say, an ERP company based in the US?
Not right now, right? So what we're doing is we're focusing in Europe. And Europe is not, I would say, one big cohesive market. So there is different angles with regard to the regulatory requirements that we need to play at, which means we looked at the markets and then we came up with a strategy focusing, let's say, on the core Europe, where the market is large enough to branch out. So we set up branches in Spain, Italy, and France, and that covers pretty much 80% of the continental European market. Mm. And that's how we like to get to know also our clients through a local branch with local management who knows also the ins and outs of the local markets, and then provide them also with a so-called local IBAN. In Europe, you have different jurisdictions requiring a local IBAN to be able to use that payment solution or the card or the credit card because they don't accept foreign ones. So we still have to play this market by market. The market is coming together little by little. It becomes more unified, but we're still not there.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to switch over into your background. You have a very interesting, I think we share a common alma mater in Lazard. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I used to be a FIC banker, and that's how I got to meet Solaris at some point. They became my client. I started covering them. And then we got into talking, really how to optimize balance sheet, how to go about the capital structure. And one conversation led to another. And at some point, we agreed that we should do this on a permanent basis, just rather than, an advisor to client relationship. And that's when I jumped over from being mostly an advisor to my FIG clients to becoming, as of late, the CFO of the company and then an actual operator.
And now you've recently, I think earlier this year, closed a sizable round of funding. Would love to hear a little bit about the rationale behind bringing in the capital partner and maybe a little bit about the partners that you have overall surrounding Solaris.
Yeah, so the last round, the G round, was necessary to address essentially the M&A part of the ADAC acquisition. ADAC is a road assistance service in Germany. It's comparable to AAA, but they have 20 plus million clients, right? If you want to start serving them, you obviously need to operate at a different scale. So we needed more capital to do that, especially since it came with $500 million of credit card receivables, right? Now you're becoming, I would say, more balance sheet heavy than you used to be, which means you need different investors and also deeper pockets who can fund the regulatory capital requirements as you grow with a client. And the intention is definitely to capture 5 to 10% of the 20 plus million clients beyond the credit card, meaning they picked us as the partner in the process because they do believe in embedded finance and they think that the future will be an embedded finance solution. So we were starting with the credit card, but the next topic that we're providing now is different savings options on the money market accounts. And then the next part will be the classic debit card. Mm-hmm. And with that, then the app becomes essentially a financial flywheel for the client, because now you have a credit card, you have the debit card, you have the first basic savings solution, and then we would expand also further financing options like classic consumer finance, lending capabilities or loans for these clients. And the final touches will be then wealth management, right? So then you have a fully functioning financial app for the client. And due to the standing that they have in the market, so it's a very, very trusted brand, mm-hmm. the level of trust they have in Germany. And that means that this is great for the penetration, right? Because once you have built that platform for them, it's then easy then to replicate it also for different segments in the market and build up. So this is one big client with a huge ecosystem where we can play at and with as a partner. So this definitely is the part of the mobility. Mm-hmm. And then we have other partners like BP, for instance. So we're trying to expand the cooperation now on a pan-European level. They have a closed loop payment solution. So they need KYC services. We do that for their end clients. We're investing a lot because we do believe that the KYC requirements will go beyond the traditional financial services, right? So everything that has some sort of client onboarding angle on an enterprise level, it will require some sort of KYC services, whether it's light or heavy, right? Depending on the industry. So we are really investing a lot because that's also a very, very good service. It's very standardizable. You can standardize it, which means you can use AI, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where we're investing for a better client relationship and also client experience, to make it even faster and smoother. I think right now we're one of the fastest in the market, but obviously competition doesn't sleep. So we want to get even better and fully automated so we can also offer better pricing to our clients.
As you were explaining the various lines of financial products you could go into, it sounded as if you could build a fairly sizable financial institution. And really what you have is this Solaris kind of backbone, and all of your clients are helping to extend the offering because they're creating their own financial services within your umbrella. Is that a way to think about it?
Yeah. So if everything goes according to plan, right, we would be essentially an infrastructure provider, right? We would have all the cloud providers. We would have a standardized offering. Obviously, it can only work with standardized offerings. If there is, let's say, too much of customization, you lose that edge, right? So you need to be careful not to branch out too much. I think we did that in the past. We had to consolidate a bunch of products. Now with the focus, I think we're getting there, becoming essentially, as you said, a backbone or infrastructure provider. And then also be able to pass on more and more of the scale to our clients and be very, very competitive in pricing.
And what's the overall vision? Do you eventually see this becoming truly global and extending into the US?
We probably need another 2 years to really master all, let's say, the European regulatory intricacies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Once we have that, I think the stepping stone will be then the UK and then the US.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the path we would like to take, because otherwise I think we would be overwhelmed a little bit with regard to the regulatory requirements and complexity. And we don't want to do the mistakes of the past, right? Where we outgrew essentially not only the market, but also the regulator, right? And then had to take some learnings where we got benched essentially for a year. So we want to take this very structured so the regulator knows like what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I think as we're progressing now and we have a very good relationship and it becomes more trusted, then obviously we would be able then to further expand outside continental Europe, where, the regulatory requirement becomes even more complex to navigate.
And in terms of your clients, how small, I mean, obviously, you want bigger clients. It sounds like those are the more appropriate client set, but how small can you go, like for a business? Like if it only has like 50 employees, is that a business that could effectively use your services?
Well, it depends, right? If we're, at a scale and we're not there, right, to service each and every business, then obviously it becomes a target client. Right now, what we're trying to do is actually build on larger ecosystems, because we think in hundreds of thousands or even in millions, right? If we have the right partner, we have a great partner who's offering very dedicated and great software services around accounting. And, we started very small with them, but we saw the potential, right? It was a great solution. So they had also pan-European ambitions. And then obviously we take that bet. Yeah, if that 50 people company has a more growth ambitions, we will partner up. But if it stays at the moment just at the 50, we probably won't be the right partner.
Mm-hmm. Got it. We're entering the tail end of the conversation. I have two standard closing questions, and this gets to a little bit the more personal. But one is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
Well, there were many great bankers that I worked with. I think one of the most influential ones, I would say, were in my earlier career. It was actually the global head of Figure Lazard, Steve Campbell. Mm. Because he for once really switched a little bit the gears in terms of the one thing is being a banker and executing a deal, and the one is the manager, right? And he told me something that really stuck with me is that, Konstantin, you're a great banker, but you're not a manager. If you want to become a manager, take your ego out of the conversation and the discussion to find a suitable solution and bring the whole team forward, right? It was really, really good advice, because it makes every discussion easier that you're having with the team and you're trying to find the good solution, because then you're open to ideas and you're becoming a better listener. And that usually leads to a better outcome than just your own view.
Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
Well, I spent a lot of time in the Greek community here in Germany, and we're kind of trying to push a little bit the Greek language. It's not very used internationally, but I think because it's the basis or the foundation of many Western languages, we would like for people to take more interest, and we're trying to put it through the curriculum in Germany, so it becomes part of the language courses in the local schools.
Excellent. Well, Konstantin, I want to thank you again for taking the time for this conversation. It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.